one of the biggest leaps in my thinking, and it was only while I was reflecting on this conversation today that I realized I didn't have to provide an alternative to an IQ test. It's not that I had to take something else in to find the truth about this child. I don't have that truth. It's not mine to find. And what I needed to do, and what I hope I do, is I support other people who know that young person really well to come together and to share their ideas and their hopes and their dreams and their worries. And my job is about holding people, finding that time, that safe space, so we can do that together. So I'm part of the process, and I bring something valuable that I know the schools I work with appreciate, but it's not the knowledge of the child. They hold that. What I bring is psychology around thinking about how we hold a group safe so we can share ideas and we can problem solve together and find ways forward that's respectful and is positive and is empowering for everybody. I don't come in as the expert who knows everything. I come in as the person who can support them as the people who know.
So in terms of the other forms of assessment that I've used in Nottinghamshire, that's mostly looked like consultation. So gathering together the adults around the child, recruiting that team, and coming together to share our understandings, to elicit kind of this common understanding of gathering perspectives, and then collaborating on thinking of next steps of how do we make this situation better. So using that time together to explore, what's happening and what the concern is, who is concerned, beginning to explore why. I'm able to share psychology to help, and most importantly, exploring together what might be done to make the situation better, to make a difference. And so that's the form of assessment I've used mostly. Considering all the while how we keep pupil views at the heart of this. So another really key part of assessment work is pupil views work, and considering how best, in a way that feels most safe to the child, to gather their views on the type of support that would be most helpful to them at school. I've also used some observation, especially to supplement consultation, and that can really help in helping to notice, to deepen understanding, but to reassure as well the adults with whom I'm working. So I think mostly I would say, though, consultation has been my primary way of exploring the concern and thinking of ways forward together.
So I'm very much in favour, as I've said, of a collaborative approach to assessment, where I can triangulate various forms of data carried out with the child and young person at the heart, but thinking about how they've progressed over time or in different domains. So it's really important to me to be able to get a historical profile on how the child has responded to the teaching strategies or the educational environment. And I think schools are very used now to being able to gather data in an ongoing way over time that can give numbers in relation to the curriculum. So that data can be really useful because we can start to see how well a child has responded to the particular teaching that they've had. So I would work collaboratively with the school to try and find what data they've already got in place. If a school or educational provision doesn't have data, or the picture that they're giving to me is not clear, then I would feel it would be okay and reasonable and useful for me to work directly with the child in order to gather that data. And I would probably be doing that through some curriculum measures. So this might be where I ask a child to retell a passage from a story, or I might see if they can read particular high frequency words or common exception words taken randomly according to their age, phase or area of need. Similarly with number, have they got a grasp of number bonds? I'll often approach it through playing little games with the child or young person so that they enjoy it. Or I might coach an adult in school where the adult would know the child far better than I ever would, to be able to work with the child or young person on a range of assessment tasks. So for an early years provider, it might be that they set up a little tea party, and then we have a look at how a child might interact with the person, and some teddy bears, for example, at the tea party, in terms of being able to sort out the correct number of cups, or could they give the red teacup over to the teacher? And I'd be perhaps observing some of that session as well, to be able to inform what some of the next steps of development might be, whilst noting the child's language use, and also the language that's being used by those in the system around the child as well, and to see how the child is processing instructions and things like that. So it can yield a really great amount of good qualitative data, which might be sort of soft data, but it's extremely useful and valuable in putting that together with the other kinds of hard data that a school might have acquired in terms of curriculum-based assessment.
What I've moved to really is a consultation model, and when I reflect back on it, I'm really surprised to see how far I've come with that. And I'm at my most comfortable as a psychologist when I'm sitting talking with people. So they feel contained, they feel held, they know that it's a safe space to talk about difficult things, but it's also where we're going to be talking about our hopes and our dreams about a young person, and that at the end of it, we will find a way forward. So there may be difficult things to be said in it, or worries to be shared, but at the end of it, we will find a way forward. So it happens in lots of different ways. So at the moment, it's all on Zoom, but it's you know, I've done it through doing paths where we're really stuck and people can't see a way forward, and just watching people find solutions. So setting up a path where you're spending a couple of hours graphicking and dreaming, and you've got lovely food set out, and all the people who know the child best are in the room. And I've had people come in and going, well, I don't know why we're doing this. We know we're stuck. We know there aren't any answers here, and go out going, but we found answers. We can't believe that, and it's hopeful and it's optimistic. So that's that sort of approach. I think just thinking about how in terms of how people get to me, there are lots of steps to do on the way, which aren't meant to be barriers, but they're hopeful. So if a school, supposing a teacher's concerned, they would talk to the SENCO. The SENCO knows they can talk to their family SENCO, who is the family SENCO for the group of schools, who will carry lots of expertise and knowledge. If they still want to share concerns, they bring them to our termly springboard meeting. So all the SENCOs in that particular family are there, and other professionals from other local authority agencies are there. And I chair the meeting in my area, and it's absolutely a problem-solving place. So people bring a concern. There may well be, we talk it through. We've got parental consent to do so. We talk it through. There will be other people in that room who will have met something similar, and we just share ideas. And I might create a structure where we might do have a bit of problem solving around it, but often it's just the conversations that happen. And it may be somebody then agrees they will go in and support. It may be the family SENCO goes in. It may be one of the other SENCO says, well, I'll contact you. I've got these resources. We can have a conversation. And it may be I do. Schools also know they can contact me anytime. They don't have to wait for the springboard. But there are so many people with that knowledge. So I'm not the first port of call. And I have huge respect for the knowledge and the skills that is held within schools and within the local authority. If I do go in, if it is seen that something that I should be supporting with, often that's the consultation. It might be a phone consultation with a SENCO. I wouldn't necessarily see the young person. I often think that there are that young person is dealing with so many people on a daily basis. They don't need somebody coming in. Again, it's that going back to one person finding the truth about a child. That's not me. That's me talking to the people who know the child best to learn from them. So if there's an observation to be done, I might say to the SENCO, would you be able to do that? Because actually, again, that's more comfortable for the young person. And often the SENCO hasn't got the time to do that, but actually finding that time can be so enlightening for them to see what's happening. And then we talk, and then it may be I go in. But if I do go in and do an observation, I would do a pupil coaching observation. So the young person knows I'm going in, they know that I'm going to be looking for positives, and they know that I'll be having a conversation with them afterwards about those. I don't do that very often, but when I do an observation, that's what I'm doing. So I would, the young person's given consent, I do the observation, I then talk with them, and I have an adult who knows them well from school. So we're looking at what difference did it make having me there, because obviously having somebody you don't know sitting in the lesson makes a difference. So we acknowledge that it's not like normal because I was there. And then it's what for them. I tell them what I notice going well. I ask them what helped that to go well, and often I'll say things about the teacher and how the lesson's set up. And then I'll ask, and what would have made it even better? And then also, sometimes the young person will say, well, actually, that lesson's a great lesson anyway, because Miss does this and this, but I don't do well in maths. Could you come and watch a maths lesson? So I'm not saying I do this all the time, because it's time consuming, and the staff have to find the time to then come and sit with me and talk. But when I do it, it's a really powerful and respectful thing to do. So I'm very happy to do those. If it's a concern about learning, then often it would be about supporting the staff, looking at resources. We have our brilliant SFSS teams, and they might become involved, and they would do similar to us in that they don't go in and do a psychometrics type assessment. They're interested in looking at how the young person does in that lesson, what's helping them in that lesson, what would make it easier, are there other lessons they do better in, what is it about that lesson, is it a personality thing, is it the style of the lessons, where are this young person's strengths and the teacher's strengths, and how do we build more on that. I don't write reports. I think it's obvious in this, I don't write reports very often, so the only ones I do really are for EHC assessments. Occasionally I'll be asked to do another report, so I've got a young person who's moving from Notts to another authority. They're in care, and we've been asked to provide a psychologist report. So my first thought is, oh no, what am I going to do? I'm going to do a traditional report. And then I think, no, of course not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to meet with the teacher, and the Senko's asked to be there as well. We're going to look at the child's strengths, what their needs. We're going to write a short pen picture, and we're going to talk about what their school has found has been helpful. And my job really is just drawing that out, because sometimes what people do feels so automatic to them, they don't realise that what they're doing is special, or is just working so well, or is just unique to that situation, because it feels so obvious when you do it well. So it's really drawing out of them all those things. I'd also then ask them to talk to the young person about it, and we use a pen picture. So the young person and a familiar adult would sit, and they would do the same thing: strengths, needs, what helps, what doesn't help. So we've got that picture. So I've supported that process, but I've not gone away and written a unique psychological report. When I do write a report, it's really important to me I use simple, accessible language. So there's no ambiguity. There are no big words that won't be understood by people. And that goes back to a colleague of mine years and years ago, as part of her thesis for her master's. She just asked parents and teachers about psychology. She gave them anonymized psychology reports, and she asked them what certain words meant. What sense did they make of this paragraph? What did this word mean? And realized how much was not understood. We use some language. We all do it, don't we? In our own line of work, we use the language that we know and we're familiar with. And quite often in a school, I'll ask, could you just say that again, please? Could you just clarify that? Because it's the language we all use very quickly, but it's not always accessible to people who aren't in education. So I make sure it's very simple, very accessible, and it's hopeful. I do draw out strengths. Of course, we need to talk about difficulties if it's about funding, or it's about looking at an EHC. We need to be really clear where we're identifying the difficulties, but I want to tell that rich picture of the young person, so their strengths are in there, and there's a respectfulness in how I write it, so the young person, when they read it, will feel comfortable with how I've written it. And I hope I tell their story in a way that feels respectful and hopeful. Sometimes, I think I've already said, I don't see the young person at all. I don't think there's anything magic about what I would do with them. And I'm really happy for them to be talking with. I'd much rather they talk with the people they know well. I think also sometimes the young people who are referred to us have so many people and other professionals in their lives. And I don't want to be yet one more person they have to tell a story to. I just don't think I can do anything magic there. I think one of the great things we do in Notts, I think I'm jumping about a bit here, but I think this is really relevant, is we've built such a big bank of resources. We freely give most of them away. They're accessible to schools and parents, and we offer really good training. So often we can give those resources, talk them through, so somebody's really comfortable about how to use them. So I can think of an EHC report I wrote recently. It's become a plan. The Senko's come back to me and said, right, you've recommended this, this and this. We've spent a long time going through those recommendations. I've sent her the resources which are just there and ready to use, and I'm going in and I'm doing some training around one of the particular resources for the key people who are working with that young person.